we're talking about the individuals here, but like, are there big trends that you've noticed in, pick one, addiction, anxiety, depression? Are there trends in there of things that people could maybe identify or look at? Whether obviously you can't see the DNA without getting, a test, but are there trends there that people could maybe recognize in their behaviors or their thought patterns?
Yeah, I would say by just reading about it and what, like I mentioned that one, the GAD1 gene, right? And if that resonates with a listener and they're like, wow, I feel like that's my struggle. I never get to that place where I see my friend sitting there like, what's the big deal? Relax. Like, yeah, like, okay, you're still telling me about getting cut off this morning on your way to work and we're here tonight at dinner. Like, let it go. And the individual says, I want to let it go. I'm not like that. But you don't know the why behind it, right? So take that deeper dive and let's do a panel and let's see what's happening. And even to the point of, we prescribe more medications than any other country in the world.
I know.
Right? It's unbelievable. We make up depending on who's doing the numbers, 5 to 7% of the world in the United States, yet we're consuming 70% of the entire world's pharmaceuticals. When it comes to pain medications, we're still that same 5 to 7%. We consume 80%. So then that makes me say, when we're looking at everything, is our pain physical? Is our pain emotional? Is our pain intellectual? Is our pain spiritual? To me, it's all of those.
It's all of those for sure.
All of them.
And but we treat the symptom, not the holistic thing.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. So probably like 7 years ago, I got off of antidepressants after being on them for probably 10 years, or at least on and off for like 10 years. I tried several different types.
Typical.
Yeah. And it was just trial and error. It was, my doc, literally like my primary care physician, it was like trial and error. And I had varying results, including, severe suicidal thoughts on one of them. Yeah. And after, I landed on Zoloft as the one that worked. I use air quotes for those listening, worked the best because it kind of like leveled me out where I didn't have highs and lows and ups and downs. But with that came like the death of creativity, the death of emotions about things I probably should have been more emotional about. And as I kind of like realized, I'm like, okay, this is like my fifth one, maybe sixth one that I had tried over the course of, 8, 9, 10 years. And I was just like, you know what? I just don't think these are going to work for me. And so as I kind of learned more about myself and holistic health and, what's really going on inside instead of just masking the symptom, it was really, it kind of like started opening my eyes to this, that, we just are like a society here, especially in the States. Like we just want a pill to fix everything. We're kind of trained that way with pharmaceutical advertising and all of this stuff. And instead of addressing root causes and doing a holistic approach to mental and physical wellness, we're just looking for a pill.
Yep. And we are trained that way. We are trained to think that way. When I say to people, there's not a single pharmaceutical within a single cell in our body. Yet that's our answer to everything. That's our answer to everything. And again, I'm not anti-pharmaceutical, but let's start with what makes sense, right? So to your point about, that's a typical story that we hear of somebody on SSRIs. And moreover, we'll do a lab panel and been like, you've been on XYZ SSRI for the past 15 years and your serotonin is still in the tank. It never worked for you. So your liver, your kidneys, your bladder all had to work harder to get rid of this out of your body. And it didn't, if it worked, we'd say the trade-off is good. I operate better. My life is better. I'm going to keep at it. That makes sense. But when it's not, why do we keep doing it? Again, third time back to the definition of insanity, right? So that's the typical, try this one, didn't get any good results. All right, let's double it. Let's see where we go when we double it. Then it's like, all right, you know what? That didn't work. Let's switch to this one. Let's half it.
Let's add Abilify. I remember those ads.
Let's double down.
If your antidepressant isn't enough, add Abilify to it. It's like, what?
Right. Yeah, let's double down and bring in another. And it's, had we taken a deeper dive and did labs on you, we'd see that common term is a searching, that you've got a polymorphism in the searching, and an SSRI was never going to be effective for you to begin with. So we would have had to figure out way back what's a different way within the biochemical pathways to reach that end point, because that's never going to work. What does that do to somebody when you've been on an SSRI for a year, for years, for decades, which they were never meant to be on decades? They were meant for short-term acute situations. And your doctor starts telling you this works on everybody else. This is supposed to work. It's you. Whoa.
Once again, comparison.
Yeah. What that does to somebody. I can't tell you, Nick, the amount of people that actually cry when we go over results, and their tears of joy, because they're like, everything you said is what I have felt my entire life, and I feel validated for the first time. It's who you are.
Yeah.
You know?
Literally, it is who you are as an individual.
Who you are. Yeah.
Now you're making me want to do this. I actually already wanted to do some
Let's do it.
The home lab tests. I think when we talk about genetics and the role they play and I think we're better at it probably in physical health right now than mental health.
Yeah.
The way it can influence your energy, your mood, your sleep, your whatever, right? Your addictions. And I think we all probably have addictions to certain things.
Right.
What would you say to someone who's, let's say interested, and I guess I don't even know, does insurance cover this? Like if someone wanted to go down the path of doing Wired Biohealth and getting a test and working with you, how would they go about that?
Sure.
All of that. Yeah.
So first question, does insurance cover it? Not yet. Yeah. Not yet. Like you go back to I use the example of the brachygene. When that first came on the scene, insurance didn't cover it yet either. That seems barbaric, but it's how the industry works. We had the largest insurance provider in the country come to us to ask us to do a pilot program because they know the efficacy of what we're doing. They want it to be covered. So insurance companies don't come to providers and say, hey, let's do this together because what you're doing is good. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, it does.
It's like what?
I just had a doctor who specializes in stem cell therapy. We recorded a couple of weeks ago, and it's so funny because he's like, there's studies in France all over the world showing the efficacy of stem cell for rejuvenation. And he's like, in here, we're just like 10 years behind, and the insurance companies won't touch it, and doctors won't even recommend it. It's just crazy because we're run by pharma and insurance companies. And
the model is not to attain health. The model of our healthcare system really removes the word health.
Yeah.
It's a system. Take the word health out.
Yep.
It's true. I mean, other places are so far advanced because of the open-mindedness, because it's not run by what's the profit margin. Right.
Well, I always tell people too, I'm like, I'm a politically active person. Like I have a couple big issues. One of them is healthcare, because I think we need to put the health back in healthcare, to your point. But I think too, like a system that is, publicly funded, not run, or maybe run like the NHS in England too. Like there's incentives to get people healthy instead of get them sick. And right now we've got a system that's incentivizing giving people pills and making people, stay unhealthy, treat the symptoms, get them on that recurring revenue of a monthly, pharmaceutical. To
the point of, wouldn't it be cheaper even to have somebody do a panel paid for by the insurance company? They identify the root cause of the anxiety. Okay, we've changed that because we've isolated where it is, looked at the biochemical pathways. This is what this individual needs. The cost is going to be this compared to this, but they're just looking at their tenure in the position for the profit margin for them, period. End of story.
And not the long-term healthiness of the people of this country either.
Not at all. That's just reality, right?
Yeah.
To your point though, how would somebody go about it? So that's the health insurance part. My goal is to see that happen. But as of right now, someone would come to us, either our phone number or the website wiredbiohealth.com and go on there. Even we offer our consultants, our clinicians will do a 15-minute complimentary, just like what's going on with you, what have you done so far, is this something for you, or point you in a different direction. And let's find out. Let's find out what's going on with you and what it would take to get you to the other side of everything. It doesn't make sense to stay in the place of knowing the discomfort on every level of your life, but doing nothing to change the outcome of that when there are things now available.
Yeah. The implementation, and one of the things I think is super cool happening right now, and would you consider this neuroscience?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I thought so, but I didn't want to make the assumption without having the expert weigh in. But I had a neuroscientist on my podcast probably about a year and a half ago. And one of the things that I got after talking to him, and we broke down, he calls it DOSE, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so he was kind of breaking down the role of each of those four chemicals in neuroscience and how we function, all that stuff. And so it kind of got me thinking like, wow, we're really at this like intersection, I think, as a population of neuroscience and mental health, from like a traditional talk therapy, psychiatry, and really like understanding this kind of stuff and the why things are happening.
Correct.
And understanding that there's like physiological things we can do to improve our life experience.
Right.
I think we're at this intersection right now, and it's so important to inform people, because I can guarantee you most of the people who deal, you know this better than me, but deal with mental health issues or addiction issues or whatever that might be, like a lot of them don't know that there's more out there than talk therapy or, medication.
Right. And we're all for those other parts of it, right? You have to do the talk therapy. You need the medication. That should be a no-brainer. But we have to have this as our starting point, right? So we know, and we've identified, we work with therapists, we work with counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists of, okay, let's get this piece to it. And then keep doing everything else you're doing. But let's get this piece, so we've identified it. And what does it do when you're in therapy? You start thinking differently. You can take that information being given to you, instead of every week sitting there like, yeah, that might work for you, but it'll never work for me. All of a sudden being like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to try that this week. You're right.
Yeah. Well, imagine, I'm thinking to myself, like, it took me years to figure out some of my patterns and reframe the way I think about stuff. And it's like, imagine going in knowing what took you years to realize and identify as a pattern, that there's like a physiological reason that you're doing that. And you're like starting at the 50-yard line instead of the 10-yard line.
Exactly. It's like, let's get there faster, because we all have the same goal for you to be living your life most advantageous to you, right? So it's going to get you there faster. And, we all also derail in our lives. No one's just singing along, like everything's great, like stuff happens.
I think life is all derailments. You're never on the straight path you think you're on.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, that makes sense. Why I'm sitting in this place. Let me get back on. I know that. Like, let's go.
Thank you for listening to this clip from the full episode of Eyes Wide Open. Please like and subscribe for daily clips and new episodes that drop every Tuesday. I appreciate you.